Let me ask you something. When was the last time you lived even a single moment without worry? Not pretending, not laughing just to hide the pain, but truly feeling light, present, and free. Most of us are always waiting for things to be perfect before we allow ourselves to feel joy. But that perfect moment never comes. Buddhism teaches us that peace isn't found in the future. It's found when we stop running, stop controlling, and return to what's real. If you're tired of living in your head, if you're ready to stop worrying and start feeling truly alive again, then these 7 lessons may be the reminder your soul has been waiting for. 1. The present moment is the only safe place you'll ever have. One of the deepest truths in Buddhism is that real peace, real freedom, can only be found in the present moment. That may sound simple, but when you truly understand it, it changes everything. The past is gone. It only lives in your memories. The future hasn't happened yet. It only exists in your imagination. But worry doesn't care about that. It pulls you into a mental world filled with what-ifs and maybes. It creates worst-case scenarios, builds fears out of thin air, and convinces you that danger is always just around the corner. And because you keep thinking about those fears, your body and mind start to react as if they're real, even though you're completely safe right now. When you worry, you're not dealing with the actual moment you're in. You're living in a future that hasn't happened. You're suffering through events that exist only in your mind. That's how powerful thoughts can be. They can rob you of the peace that's already here. But the moment you bring your awareness back to what is truly happening, your breath going in and out, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the sounds around you, something shifts. Your nervous system begins to calm down. Your chest feels lighter, your thoughts slow, because the present moment is not just an idea, it's a place, a refuge. It's the only space where life is actually happening. Everything else is just noise. And here's the most important part. Worry cannot survive when you're truly present. It feeds on imagination. It dies in reality. When you are fully grounded in the now, there is no space for fear about what hasn't happened yet. The mind may still try to pull you back into worry. It may whisper, "What if tomorrow brings bad news?" But you can learn to gently speak back to it, saying, "I don't need to solve tomorrow right now. Right now, I am safe. Right now, I am breathing, and that is enough." With practice, this return to the present becomes easier. It becomes your anchor, your home, your safest place to be. And the more you return, the more you realize you were never supposed to live in fear of the future. You were always meant to live in the freedom of now. 3. Acceptance is not giving up. It's giving yourself permission to breathe. We often confuse acceptance with weakness. We think that if we accept something difficult, it means we've stopped trying, that we've failed, or that we're giving up on changing things. But in Buddhism, acceptance is not about surrendering to helplessness. It's about letting go of the exhausting need to control everything that happens to us. When you constantly resist what life brings, whether it's a loss, a mistake, a delay, or an unexpected challenge, you create tension inside yourself. That tension becomes suffering, not because the situation is unbearable, but because your mind is fighting it so hard. Acceptance means seeing reality clearly and saying, "This is what's happening right now." It doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you don't care. It simply means you stop pretending it's not real. You stop pouring energy into wishing it were different when in this moment it is not. And once you do that, something opens inside you. You stop clenching. You stop fighting against the tide. And in that softening, you can finally breathe again. Think about how much mental and emotional pain comes not from the event itself, but from your resistance to it. A relationship ends, and instead of grieving, we ask why it happened, how it could have been avoided, whether it could still be fixed. We relive it again and again, as if we could rewrite the past by worrying hard enough. But we can't, and the more we resist what is, the more we suffer. Acceptance is the moment you stop arguing with reality and allow yourself to feel what you feel, without judgment, without shame. That's when healing begins. This doesn't mean you stop trying to grow or improve your situation. It means you stop expecting life to match your plans in order for you to be at peace. You begin to realize that peace isn't the result of things going your way. Peace is what happens when you stop needing things to go your way. Acceptance creates space. Space for clarity, for wise action, for rest. It frees up the energy that was trapped in the endless cycle of frustration and fear. And in that space, you can move forward, not with anxiety, but with understanding, not with control, but with trust. Because you no longer need to win against life. You just need to walk with it. 4. Not every thought deserves your attention or your belief. The human mind is an incredibly powerful tool, but it can also be an incredibly noisy and confusing place. Every single day, thousands of thoughts pass through your awareness. Some helpful, many repetitive, and far too many based in fear, doubt, and insecurity. One of the core teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that you are not your thoughts. This simple truth, when fully grasped, can transform your inner life. Just because a thought appears in your mind doesn't mean it's true, and it certainly doesn't mean it deserves your full attention or your belief. Worry thrives on unexamined thoughts. It begins with a single whisper. What if something bad happens? And suddenly, you're following that thought down a spiral of imagined worst-case scenarios. You feel anxious, unsafe, uncertain, not because something real is happening, but because your mind has tricked you into believing a story that hasn't even come true. That's the danger of believing every thought you have. It can take you away from reality and into a place of fear, stress, and emotional exhaustion. But here's what Buddhism teaches us. The mind is like the sky, and your thoughts are like clouds. Some clouds are light and beautiful, others are dark and stormy. But none of them are permanent, and none of them define the sky. The sky remains untouched, even when storms pass through it. In the same way, your true self, your awareness, is much deeper and calmer than the thoughts that pass through it. When you begin to observe your thoughts instead of getting pulled into them, you develop what's known as mindfulness. You start to see thoughts for what they are, temporary mental events, not absolute truths. So when your mind tells you, "I'm not good enough," or "I can't handle this," or "everything is going to fall apart," you don't have to argue or panic. Instead, you can pause, breathe, and gently say, "This is just a thought. It's not a fact. I don't have to believe it." That simple awareness can stop the chain reaction before it begins, and over time, you start to create space between you and your thoughts. You no longer feel like a victim to every fear that rises. You begin to feel free, not because you've silenced your mind completely, but because you've stopped obeying every story it tells. The more you practice this, the more peace you'll experience. You'll still have thoughts, of course, but they won't carry the same weight. You'll be able to notice them, let them pass, and return to the calm center within you. That's what mindfulness does. It trains you to live with awareness instead of reactivity. It teaches you to stop letting your thoughts pull you in every direction. And when you master this inner stillness, worry no longer controls you. You become grounded, clear, and calm. Not because life is perfect, but because your mind no longer needs to be. 5. Impermanence means your fear cannot last forever. One of the most profound and freeing teachings in Buddhism is the truth of impermanence. The understanding that everything in this life is constantly changing. Nothing remains the same. People grow, emotions shift, situations evolve. Just like the seasons, every experience, good or bad, will pass. And yet, when fear or anxiety takes hold, it often feels permanent. It feels like it will stay forever, like it has taken over your entire reality. But the truth is, no matter how overwhelming the fear may seem, it will pass. It always does. Think back to the moments in your past when you felt lost, anxious, heartbroken, or uncertain. At the time, those feelings might have seemed unbearable. But here you are. You survived them. You made it through. And now, those same experiences live only in memory. That alone proves something powerful. Emotions, no matter how intense, are temporary. Even the deepest pain has a lifespan. And once you start seeing emotions this way, especially worry and fear, you stop identifying with them. You stop saying, "I am anxious," and instead begin to understand, "I am experiencing anxiety." And like everything else, it will pass. When you forget impermanence, you panic. You feel like things will always be this hard, this uncertain, this painful. But when you remember it, you create space between you and your suffering. You no longer see it as something that defines your existence, but as something that is visiting for a while and will eventually leave. This is not just a comforting idea. It's a spiritual truth that is reflected in nature, in life, and in every experience we go through. The storm doesn't stay. The night always gives way to dawn. And even the heaviest emotions lighten with time. This understanding also helps you approach your emotions with more patience and gentleness. You stop trying to rush healing or force yourself to feel better. Instead, you learn to sit with your discomfort without fearing it. You let it move through you like a wave, rising, peaking, and eventually receding. You learn to breathe with it, not fight against it. You trust the process, because now you know with complete certainty that you are not stuck. You are simply in a temporary moment of difficulty, and that moment, like all others, is already passing. So when worry shows up, and your chest tightens, and your mind begins spinning stories about what might go wrong, take a step back. Place your hand over your heart. Remind yourself gently, this is only a moment. It will not last. I have survived so many before, and I will move through this too. That simple reminder, spoken with awareness and care, can bring incredible peace to your inner world. Because when you stop fearing your fear and you start trusting the nature of impermanence, you unlock a kind of inner calm that no storm can shake. 6. Let go of control. That was never your burden to carry. One of the greatest sources of worry in life comes from the illusion of control. The belief that if we think hard enough, plan far enough, or try long enough, we can make everything go exactly as we want. We tell ourselves that if we just stay alert, we can prevent bad things from happening, avoid pain, and keep everything and everyone in perfect order. But this belief, while understandable, is a heavy burden to carry. Because no matter how hard you try, there will always be things beyond your control. Other people's choices, unexpected events, shifting circumstances, and even your own emotions at times. Trying to control everything doesn't bring peace. It creates anxiety. It builds a life based on fear, not freedom. Buddhism teaches us a different way. It encourages us to act with intention and wisdom, but without clinging to the outcome. This means you do your best in every situation. You show up fully. You give your energy to what matters. You respond with mindfulness, but then you release the rest. You trust that the river of life will carry you where you need to go, even if the path looks different than you imagined. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop suffering over what isn't yours to control. It's not weakness, it's maturity. It's strength of a different kind. The kind that comes from knowing that peace is more important than perfection. Think about how many nights you've stayed awake replaying conversations, stressing over decisions you can't undo, or fearing outcomes that haven't even happened. All that energy, all that tension, and yet nothing changed except your exhaustion. The truth is, the future is not something you can completely shape through worry. It is shaped by presence, action, and trust. And when you understand that, you can start to loosen your grip. You can breathe again. You can move more gently through your life. Letting go of control also means releasing the belief that you must be perfect for things to work out. It means accepting that mistakes will happen, plans will change, and uncertainty is part of the path. But instead of fighting that truth, you begin to accept it. You start trusting that life has its own wisdom, that there is a deeper order behind what looks like chaos, and that trust becomes your anchor during times of change. You don't need to solve everything right now. You don't need to have all the answers. What you need is to return to yourself again and again and ask, am I doing my part with presence and care? If the answer is yes, then allow the rest to unfold. Give life space to breathe. Give people space to be who they are, and give yourself permission to not know everything. The freedom that comes from letting go is not the kind that rises above life. It is the kind that goes deeper into it. It allows you to show up with more love, more clarity, and more peace, because your energy is no longer spent trying to control what was never yours in the first place. 7. Speak gently to the voice inside you that worries. Most people carry an inner voice that constantly worries, questions, doubts, and prepares for the worst. It appears in quiet moments, when you are alone with your thoughts, or when something uncertain shows up ahead. It whispers things like, "Are you sure you can manage this?" Or, "What if everything falls apart?" This voice is not cruel on purpose. It does not speak to hurt you. In fact, it believes it is protecting you. It tries to prepare you for possible danger, heartbreak, or disappointment. But over time, that same voice becomes a source of stress and tiredness. It keeps you in a constant state of alert, draining your peace and stealing your joy. Buddhism teaches compassion, not only for others, but also for yourself, especially for the parts of you that feel scared. Instead of battling this inner voice, or trying to silence it with force and frustration, the healing way is to meet it with kindness and understanding. Just as you would comfort a frightened child who does not fully understand the world, you can begin speaking to your inner self with calm reassurance. You can say, "I know you are afraid. I know you are trying to protect me, but we are safe right now. We don't need to panic. Let's breathe and handle this one step at a time." When you shift from judgment to compassion, something powerful begins to happen inside you. The fearful voice no longer needs to shout to be noticed. It becomes softer. It slowly starts to trust you. For many people, the inner voice is loud, not because it is strong, but because it feels unheard. When you meet it with kindness instead of anger, when you sit with your fear instead of pushing it away, you create space for peace. You begin building a relationship with yourself based on trust, not control. This does not mean feeding every fear or allowing anxiety to control you. It means staying present with it, like a calm teacher guiding a worried student. You stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start saying, "It is okay to feel this way. I can still move forward." This shift is at the heart of Buddhist self-compassion, meeting your inner world with mindfulness and kindness instead of shame and resistance. With time, as you continue this practice, the inner voice that once frightened you becomes quieter. not because the world has changed, but because your relationship with your own mind has healed. You have become a safe place for yourself. You have learned that you do not need to fight yourself in order to grow. You need to hold yourself gently as you grow. And that kind of softness is not weakness. It is the deepest kind of strength, because when you can sit with your own fear without running from it, you are no longer ruled by it. You are free. Joy is not a reward for a perfect life. It is a practice you can start today. Many people spend their lives thinking happiness is something they must earn. They tell themselves, "I will be happy when things settle down," or "I will feel joy when everything is perfect. Once I am successful, once I have fixed every problem." But that day rarely comes, because the truth is, there will always be something unfinished. There will always be uncertainty, flaws, and changing circumstances. If you wait for life to be perfect before allowing yourself to be happy, you may end up waiting forever. Buddhism softly reminds us that joy is not something you find by accident. It is not something only the lucky or calm people receive. It is a daily practice, a mindful return to the present moment, a choice to accept life as it is, not only as you wish it to be. True joy is not always loud or dramatic. It does not always look like excitement or celebration. Sometimes joy is as simple as pausing to feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, hearing the wind move through the trees, sipping tea quietly, or noticing how your chest rises and falls with each breath. These are the quiet doors where happiness enters, not because your life is perfect, but because you have chosen to be present with it. One of the key shifts in Buddhist thought is understanding that you do not need to fix everything in your life to feel peace. You only need to stop believing that happiness must always wait. You do not need every fear to disappear before you can smile. You do not need every answer to feel calm. You do not need every wound healed before you can laugh. Joy lives in the present moment, and when you learn to connect with it, even while life is still messy, something meaningful begins to happen. You begin to take your power back. Practicing joy means training your mind to see the good, even when things are hard. It means taking a pause to feel grateful, even when everything is not perfect. It means allowing yourself to soften, to enjoy small moments, to treat yourself with kindness, and to value the times that bring peace. Over time, this becomes a natural way of living, and worry, which once felt steady and heavy, slowly begins to fade. Not because you pushed it away, but because your mind has learned a new focus, a new way to see. You begin to understand that life does not need to be perfect to be beautiful, that you do not need to solve every problem to feel love in your heart, and that sometimes the deepest joy is simply being here, alive, aware, and open to whatever the moment brings. When you practice joy in this way, gently and quietly each day, you discover that happiness was never far. It was only waiting for you to stop chasing it and start noticing it. And in that awareness, you begin to live not from fear or control, but from gratitude.